opposite of what you said. They said, no, it's a big problem. You've got your one-trick pony. And you know how many Guardians there are in Smite?
Yeah.
You know how many Hunters there are? You can't ban and take everything. Right away, Noble are going to look for it. I think and this was also a conversation I had, taking away the Athena more important than taking away the Cabrakan, even though Cabrakan has been so important for them.
I think they can take Cabrakan out as well. They're going to take both out. I think, I'm pretty sure they are first pick, Noble. So here's my prediction. I think Athena ban, I think Cabrakan ban, first pick Artio. They got to make sure they really get that Guardian God Pool real down.
Yeah. At the same time, you know, it's funny. You go, yes, we've got the Cabrakan and the Athena. We're going to pick the Artio, and then Elevate come through and go, okay, Cherry will just jungle Ymir.
Can you comment on this right there, the Walrus special there with those glasses?
The clout goggles.
He needs some clout.
It's just the future's so bright for him that he needs shades. It's really bright at 0 and 2 for Walrus and Noble.
Oh, man.
Wow. I guess he does need protective eyewear if you're going to be firing shots like that. I really did not want to bring attention to the cloud goggles at all whatsoever. But yeah, there you go. It's Wally Walrus, Mark Maloney, just...
He's out there. He is really out there.
Rocking the 2016 meme goggles. Either way, Osiris to ban for Elevate alongside Cucullin, which I actually think is kind of nice because you have Noble focusing on these Guardians and Elevate focusing on these Warriors. Ain't nobody going to be tanky.
Yeah. It's very true. I like Elevate strategy, though. Walrus does provide a big, serious threat in that solo lane. He does have the potential to solo you if you're kind of left sleeping there. So taking away the Osiris and the Cucullin, this allows Elevate now to potentially lean on that solo lane, not having to worry about at least those two threats.
Wow. Almost in Cobb. I'm kind of shocked. I really thought Artio.
Yeah, with the Amusing Cobb pickup, clearly Elevate's going to go directly to the Artio.
Well, Amusing Cobb is also that one piece out of the puzzle for double Hunter, right? It's usually Amusing Cobb paired up with the Hou Yi, but with Elevate's Germain, it could also be the Hou Yi for Death Panther and Rom for Germain.
Yeah, I think I want to see the Hou Yi pick here, and that's exactly what we'll get. Simply because, I mean, you identify your weak part. Death Panther's God Pool, absolutely a weak part of Elevate. Give him the Hou Yi. You know he can smack people with it. Done.
Now the question is, does Noble take a Rom here early on, or do they run the double Hunter as well, or do they just keep their Amusing Cobb, still run the traditional Mage for Moswell, which they probably should do, and then ban away the Rom in the secondary phase?
I think they're probably going to look to get Thoth. I mean, Oswald's been playing it really well, and I feel like Elevate is just going to go with either a Guardian pick so they don't all get banned out because now Jing 10's on Noble's side, or they're going to maybe go for a Warrior. I'm not really sure.
I think Noble can easily be baited into a bad situation where so in the picks and ban phase, it's very important to sort of outsmart your opposition and sort of take away their options. But at the same time, it's very easy to fall down the rabbit hole of focusing on, all right, we're going to screw them. And then you look at your draft and you go, none of us can play these gods. What did we just do? Mozzie is one of the better traditional mage players here. Don't get caught up in keeping Germain off of Rom. Give Moswell a fantastic pick. I think Giannis is going to work out well.
In my opinion, no.
Really?
This is not a big, like, even though the ult is skillful and it does require skill, a lot of it is luck.
Yeah, I agree.
Most of it is. It's not like a Vulcan. It's not like a Thoth where you can well-positioned ults can just win you the game. I really think Elevate just have the upper hand here.
Obey Alliance, Game 5 against Elevate, brought out the Giannis for Pretty Prime once I think Rajan was taken off the table and Emilzy ran that hell. And I think it wasn't necessarily a strategy developed around hitting the abilities because Pretty Prime, I think around 15 minutes, had 3,000 damage. He was just the threshold man, getting the mobility for his team, trying to reposition his teammates between the threshold and the portals, avoiding some of these Guardians.
I called it.
Ymir.
I called it. I knew when the going gets tough, Cherio is going to go to the Ymir jungle. He loves his pick.
At one point, we're going to see Cherio on Kuzembo, on Bacchus, maybe even going to the Worlds, because there's so many Guardians. You ban them all. He's just going to pick another. Guardians do a bunch of damage if you build them correctly.
What about the Kumbhakarna jungle?
He might. Like, this is why, like, people are saying this strat doesn't work. And to an extent, yes, like, some gods are much better. For instance, if they get Artio Cabrakan, that'd be the dream scenario. Sure. But even if they get, like, an Artio Ymir, Artio, even, like, Kuzembo, even though it's a meme, like, it's still so
Captain
good.
Twig played it in one of the last games of the regular season against a team that was trying their hardest and smoked them with the Kuzembo jungle. You know, meme or not meme, it wins games. And I don't care if it's hilarious or serious. If it comes up with a W, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And Skilladon needs to find an option to try to kind of go past these Guardians and go onto Death Panther and Jermaine. Ratatasker stripped away by Elevate. I called the wrong band because Jermaine really likes that pick, even with Hu Yi. That's definitely going to go for Death Panther. But these assassins for Skilladon here, do you expect a Bakasura maybe?
I'm not sure. It'd be pretty decent, I'd say, because Baka's best trait is when you are fighting in the jungle and they are trying to steal your buffs because you don't have pressure. If you don't have a kill comp, Baka can just stand there. He can't die.
And there are 3 picks that I've been begging teams to select into Elevate. Nemesis, Kali, Bakasura. All of them destroy tanks. Kali gets the chin side, Bakasura gets true damage, and Nemesis just Nemesis, right? So you're able to chew through these tanks. You know, Elevate is playing with their hand on the table face up. And you know what they're doing. It's not a surprise. So fight into it. You have options here.
I'm surprised to see a Fafnir ban rather than an Uller, because that's one of Jermaine's best gods.
It's very true. He did bring that out, I think, in game number 1 and 2 against Obey Alliance. He really likes to try to just put a lot of pressure in that duel lane, especially with Dardas that might be piloting this Ardio or Ymir.
So the Uller selection has worked out in lane, but when it comes time to team fight, I find that every time Elevate go to the Uller, they lack the power that ultimates bring, especially when they also have an RDO, right? So I feel like Noble are saying, yeah, please pick the Uller. You'll beat us up in lane. But then when it comes to time to team fight, you literally have 3 ultimates and one of them's Ymir. So like you're sitting there saying, you're kind of baiting Elevate into that scenario, I think.
But more importantly, it's also trying to deny the enemy hunter with this Uller early game pressure. Hachiman instead of Uller here, an ultimate that can really turn the tides in team fights.
Big ult. Main job of Hachiman is to just ult, get to their backline. Ult them, get the damage on the squishies. It does like a quarter of their health, and then Hachi can just dash out. Aegis if he even has to.
Yep.
And he's chilling.
Or pull a Zaman and dash in.
I mean, if you want to be zapped, then you're just trying to lose.
Noble right here, 2 more selections. And you know what? All right, I pride myself on being able to change my mind when given information, and I've been thinking about this Giannis pick since we disagreed, and I gotta say I'm with you. I liked Giannis originally because it's going to give him using Cobb sort of a get out of jail free card, but Maswal is a guy that really changes games with his mage play. And like you said, I don't know if Giannis is that guy. If you hit the unstable vortex with all of the boxes checked, the threshold, the passive, etc., you're gonna blow somebody up. If you don't do that, you're going to wait another 5-8 seconds until you get to try again. So right now for Noble, AMC, Xingqian, Giannis, I'm looking for 2 selections that are going to bring reliable damage.
That's true. There's more weight on Skilladon's shoulders. We're seeing Ganesh for Wub, and Naja is the selection here. It's not the most traditional assassin mid-mage combo, but this mobility, Naja, as long as you consistently hit those ring bounces, is going to be so mobile.
You're loving it, Mask.
Yeah. Big elephant, little man, dude. He goes up in the air, comes down, Ganesh puts the ult down, double ticks, 2 ticks, maybe even 3. They have no prots. They're dead every time.
Little boy, big trunk. That's how it works out.
Oh, that's what it's called. I messed it up.
Little boy, big trunk. You got to get it right, man.
Sorry.
Elevate. 1 more selection. I am going to venture a guess and say maybe a Guardian. Just maybe a Guardian.
I don't
Some
know.
frontliner. What if we see
Combat's looking good.
Nox? Support, maybe?
I mean, I feel like with Elevate, Nox support is always an option.
Scab.
It will be the Geb, and this will provide the protection. I think we definitely see Ymir in the jungle, Ardio over there in the solo lane for no numbers, and Geb with support.
The Geb is very important to try to limit some of the crits against the Naja. So every time Skilladon's looking for a target, he's looking for anybody but Geb here.
Yeah.
There's interesting drafts coming out across the board. Both Elevate and Noble, I think, kind of got what they want. I do think Noble is going to have trouble fighting into the tanky lineup of Elevate.
Yeah, I think Elevate certainly have it here in a bag already for their picks and bans. They got their traditional style, their triple guardian, double physical hunter here. I don't see a world where Noble's first win here is against an Elevate that's 2-0 already.
Yep. Elevate's going 3-0.
Yeah. Elevate have looked absolutely fantastic up until this point. One of the better teams here this weekend, I would say, and absolutely one of the best teams in group play, without a doubt. Money where their mouth is. Will they go 3-0? That's what we say. We'll take a look with the casters.
Thank you, Tom. We do have Finch here, Taco as well. And we saw some nice action there in the picks and bans before we go into Noble versus Elevate.
And it's always a pretty bold statement to make whenever you're convinced that a team is going to 3-0 it, but that seems to be the crowd prediction as well. At least here it is in the arena.
Well, they have the same comp that we've seen them be so successful on here already. Those triple Guardians, and then this time they got Huyi and Hachiman to be those physical hunters that we've seen work for them. As we get ready, it is going to be just a best of one, Noble and Elevate.
And the interesting part about this draft is really Jermaine on the Hachiman. A lot of question marks being opened up here because it's not really the standard pick from what Elevate has been looking for, although it keeps intact that double Hunter, triple Guardian composition. Elevate's certainly going to have to play a little bit slower pace, though, if they don't want to run completely behind to Noble.
It'll also be interesting here. We know that Cherio can play this Amir very well, but we also know that a lot of their success has come from him piloting this Kabrak. And how well is he going to be able to do this Amir here, particularly in this game against Noble?
Noble definitely did their homework, recognizing that Kabrakan and Athena are just two picks you can never afford to give Cherio. But of course, like anything else, it's a pick your poison matchup when it comes to Elevate, because one way or another, they're going to find a way to sneak those Guardians in. And right now, it's Wowie on that AMC trying to get the boxing trade against Jermaine, but that Heavenly Banner already putting in work.
Yeah, Wowie taking a lot more poke than he bargained for there. Wubbin tried to step up and take a couple of autos, tank a couple of them for his friend, but still, like you said, the Heavenly Banner just comes over the top, and they're able to take it away. Skilladon and Walrus looks like just defend their own speed.
Very smart decision there as well, I think, for these two to start on their own buffs, kind of anticipating that invade from no numbers, I would say, or at least recognizing that Cherio is helping out his team on the left-hand side of the map. And so when you know that there's one side being pressured by 3 to 4 members potentially, you gotta find the buff somewhere else.
And this is what Huyi does for you. When we see this happen, we usually see the jungle mid rotate together, but because of Huyi's clear, the ricochet, he's really able to go do those mid harpies alone. Cherio goes down and helps with the invade, and Jermaine takes out Wowie over there in the 2v2.
That was very sudden.
Yes.
Actually, it was literally a pan away for not even 10 seconds, and Wowie ends up dying. Speaking of which, Skilladon could be in a whole lot of trouble here. The portal was placed by Moswell, but Skeely opts to not take it.
Yeah, and instead, recognizing that he was in trouble, just kind of loops around, and he still manages to make it out of there. I don't think they were expecting to have that big of a defense for that speed buff when they got there.
I do believe that that was actually in favor of Noble, though, for that speed buff. Skeely, though, can't risk picking it up himself because there were just too many bodies present for Elevate at the scene.
Instead, Jermaine and Darda is going to come over here and take these oracles, so that's going to go in their favor. And this is something that we're seeing now with this meta now, where you can start different areas. The jungle side kind of goes to one team, jungle solo, and then the duo side goes to the other. It just depends on where you want your pressure.
But check out that super early ward vision from Elevate. It seems as though they were expecting Skilladon to try and maintain a lot of pressure on the solo end, especially with the Najah pick. So placing that deep ward just keeps in mind whether or not Skeely's actually trying to come in from that loop around on the back harpies.
You're right. It's really defensive. It kind of doesn't tell them until he's already there, so it seems like it's a bit more reactive than like preventive. But you're right. It's something where they predict, they recognize that he'd be trying to get back there and look for their bus, and they were not wrong at all. But I want to take a moment to talk about Dardes here on this Geb. A lot of the times up against this Elevate triple tank comp, you want to take out these hunters a little bit harder when Geb's on there.
And Dardes' main priority here is to just play babysitter. That's kind of just what your standard is anytime you're picking up the Geb. You know that you're going to be susceptible to early game damage. You don't really have your shield online or enough to where it can actually help prevent you from getting hit by any damage. Speaking of which, Moswell eating that triple bounce out of Death Panther.
Yeah, that's definitely not what Moswell was wanting here in the mid lane. I gotta have to play especially careful, as now we do have everybody except for no numbers ticking over to level 5. A couple of members on Noble still waiting, but all the more impactful people for Elevate are ready with those ultimates. In fact, Cherio's over here to help no numbers in that lane up against Walrus. We just have to make sure he plays a little bit back.
And for Walrus, I mean, he is still going to have a moderately difficult time against this RDO. That cripple field's going to come into effect whenever he's trying to get his dash away the escape, really important. Don't want that being interrupted, especially knowing that Cherio is on the Amir jungle.
Yeah, he might get pincered here. Just about everyone's here. He got a 2-man stun, though. Goes right into the shard device. Cataclysm for Dardes and the knock-up into the Amir damage. Up into the air, though, goes Cherio. Death Panther does clean up Walrus, but Malswell returns it onto Cherio right away. Skilladon in the Suns, too. Death Panther getting a double kill.
That was such a beautiful placement of those Suns by Death Panther. As soon as Skilladon landed, there was nowhere for him to go. Dardes doing everything that he can to maybe find that kill onto Malswell, but instead, Elevate just going to be happy to clean away that speed buff.
And I don't know if I'm the only one that's been impressed by Death Panther's play this weekend, but he's looking great, in particular when he gets this Hu Yi pick. But on all these physical hunters in mid, he's looked excellent.
And there's a reason why the other EU teams don't ever try to let Death Panther have the Hu Yi, and it's because they all easily regard him as probably the best Hu Yi mid in EU.
He's really, really good, and we're getting to see it here this weekend. He's already 2-0-0 thanks to that last engagement where he rotated over just a little bit ahead of Malswell. We saw Death Panther was already 7 and Malswell just rotated over. Now, later on in this game with that double hunter comp, we know that when you can't get to them, it can be hard to beat them. How do you feel about Noble's comp in the late game?
Well, the thing about Noble is they're mostly looking for, I think, a counter engage. Maybe Skilladon can look for the initial engagement, but that's pretty difficult to do whenever there's a Geb on the enemy team. Really, Noble just need to wait until Elevate's pretty distracted with trying to initiate themselves. I mean, that's what you get 3 Guardians for. It's because you want to start the fight and then hopefully close it out.
And not just start it, but it's controlling it throughout the fight. There were a couple times where Elevate had this triple Guardian meta, a triple Guardian composition, but it was Guardians that didn't quite have the control they wanted. I mean, with an Amir, with a Geb, with an Ardio, though, they're certainly not going to have that problem this time.
I will say, though, I am a little bit surprised that teams still haven't felt it warranted to try and pick up a Sunder, possibly, to help better manage the triple Guardian composition that we see so often from Elevate.
And that's been sort of the call. Like sometimes we see him pick a Nemesis. That's kind of the same idea, you know, make it easier to kill this tank. And that really wasn't working for them either. So it feels like they've instead invested in this, try to get to the backline option. That's what Skilladon's doing with this Najah. And even Malswell, to some extent, can help him get back there. As we see the man fight happening over here, Jermaine has to drop the banner on top of himself. And wow, he happened to pick up the Stinger, but everyone's coming over with the through space and time.
And this is all that Noble wanted to do. They wanted to put Jermaine out of position, but it seems as though he's going to get away. Maybe the 1 HP. Bluestone hoping to come in clutch for Skilladon, but he's not going to be able to find it.
Jermaine happy to walk away, but Wubben might not get to. He dashes out from underneath the Suns and is slowed, but too many members of the enemy team are here, taking him up into the area. Skilladon crashing back down as Dardes, and Dardes ends up falling. Death Panther gonna jump away.
Beautiful timing there by Malswell on that unstable vortex. Can be pretty difficult, actually, trying to find that follow-up damage as a Yanis off of the Najah. So because of it, now Noble at least get a little bit of something, what was originally nothing.
That's right, but getting a kill in mid lane is Malswell just with a hot portal on the Cherio. Noble now evened it up as far as the kills are concerned, only down about 500 gold.
This Giannis pick for Malswell is really going to make a pretty significant impact on the rest of the game now. 3-0 already. He is legit carrying Noble at the moment.
Yeah, he's got all of their kills. In fact, that last kill was when he kind of just set up on his own in the middle with playing very well individually. And there's some questions in the pick phase about why this Giannis. Well, it's because Malswell is very comfortable on it.
There's just certain gods that I don't think every player is accustomed to seeing from somebody else. And I think Malswell, I mean, we've seen a whole lot of Thoth out of him this season, but you never really anticipate the Giannis. I mean, you might have maybe seen the Vulcan, but this is certainly more pocket pick oriented.
And he's been using his through space and time so far, not so much for the damage, just for getting his team over there and relying on the unstable vortex to be what gets his damage out of it, and the portal to provide a little bit more control.
The main thing that I liked is how Malswell was so keen to just ult over to the left-hand side of the map, recognizing that Wowie was in a little bit of danger. After he fell so early on to Jermaine, unfortunately, that just gives Hachiman a lot of pressure, and again, just beautiful.
Anybody else might have been dead there, but hey, Malswell can just kind of walk through walls, so he does it and gets on out of there. Not the Amir walls, just the walls on the map, and he's perfectly safe there as that Giannis. But still, Cherio good setup. Those Amir walls, man, another just really strong part of Amir's kit.
I believe the last time we actually saw Cherio on the Amir, at least for LAN, was when he was with Senguin. And so it's been a bit of a throwback pick, at least, coming out from Cherio. But I do really fancy this pick for him in particular, and I like it much more than Dartes on the Amir.
Skilladon forcing Death Panther into a bad situation. His beads are going to be on cooldown now. And that's what we've seen from these Najah picks. They aren't always going all in for the kill right away. In fact, the Sash can sometimes be the most important cooldown that Najahs have.
The important thing to keep in mind here for Skilladon is that he really just wants to try and burn some actives. And another thing with Najah as well is it's either you all in it and actually come up with something, or you just get fragged every single time. And Skilladon, there's always the meme that he tends to just feed his brains out whenever he gets in the Najah, but it helps out his team because as long as your team is finding the kills, that helps them secure the objectives after.
3-3 here are the kills after a couple of good plays out of Moswell and the rest of Noble. They've all but evened things up here with Elevate, and we've talked about it a little bit before. Clearly, Elevate are comfortable taking their games later, Taco. They know that once these tanks get to the point where they're basically unkillable, and then their two hunters are to the point where they're shredding, they got a good chance to win.
And that's why I'm a bit of a fan of what Noble's trying to clash into that with. I mean, they have the Shing 10, they've got the Ganesh. There's at least two pretty steady frontliners. Speaking of which, though, Elevate not really hesitating on this Gold Fury.
No, the Sunbreaker's been dropped down on top from Death Panther through space and time. Not quite enough. Elevate secure the objective, and they get away scot-free.
It was a great ult and great timing, just unfortunately not enough damage yet from Moswell. Still only level 11 in this match, and he hasn't finished any pen, so pretty hard to make that a feasible steal.
Yeah, that's difficult when you're doing it through space and time. But Moswell close enough, but just not enough. Elevate now able to push that lead back out again to about 1,500 or so in their favor. And like we talked about, Elevate don't need to run away with this right away. As long as they keep themselves here in this kind of comfortable spot, they're feeling good about their chances.
But also going back to what I was saying, it's just that Noble has a draft that can definitely clash back into Elevate's composition. I mean, when you have two frontliners and three gods that actually deal a pretty significant amount of damage the later the game progresses, this could be a pretty tough one for Elevate to close out.
Yeah, our desk was even talking about it. There's some good synergy here within just their comp itself, between like Skilladon and Wubbin, taking them up into the air, having the Dharmic Pillars waiting on them when they come back down. Or Moswell can set up something similar with his portals. They do have a good bit of control to try and match what Elevate's bringing.
And of course, for Noble, they also, I think, don't really want to rush into things too quickly. We saw what happened in their last game that they just played, where Skilladon, I think, was pulling the trigger a little bit too quickly on that Ratatasker, a little bit too eager to try and jump into the mix of a brawl. Right now, I think the main focus for Noble needs to just be to continue farming it up.
Yeah, that's what Noble need to look at. Make sure that they're getting their characters to the point where they can actually shred through some of these tanks a little bit more effectively, or either that or survive long enough to get to the back line. Sash coming out from Skilladon onto Jermaine. He's done it once, he's done it before, and that was enough to not get the beads out of him, but at least maybe force Jermaine back a bit.
And a really important beads pull there from Jermaine, because now that those are on cooldown, it's going to make Jermaine not want to play as aggressively into Wowie, because he's never going to really be certain as to whether or not that Najah's lurking around the corner for the gank.
No, it's definitely putting the fear into him, and it certainly was enough for him to get the beads out of him there. So that's going to be, he's going to have to back up for it, and you got to do it. If he comes in on you like that, he can just take you right up into the air. So it's not as if Jermaine really even had, much choice in the situation. That's what Skeely's been doing well with this Najah the whole time. Moswell knows they're lurking over the wall, though. Throws him an unstable vortex just to say hello, and I see y'all. And that's enough for Elevate to go ahead and back up.
It all depends, though, on what Skilladon's really trying to accomplish with this Najah. If he wants to try and look for the early picks or not. I feel with the current draft that Noble is running, it could be really difficult to lock down a kill despite Moswell's impeccable timing so far with those unstable vortexes. And he pulled Death Panther's beads earlier, but those are already back off cooldown, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him let the same thing happen for Jermaine.
I think Elevate are worried about this presence from Skillet on the left-hand side. We saw Dardez kind of roll over here to try and make sure there's a little bit more presence. Stun actually comes down on top of Wubbin, getting slowed down in that Sunbreaker, throwing the Dardez back into trouble as well. Actually, through space and time comes out. Tyrio can't quite get the freeze to go all the way through. Skilledon wraps down, no numbers, but still they're going to have to back off, just not able to get enough damage out.
Oh, but maybe for the RNG crit follow-up is all that I can imagine, or that Elevate maybe try to funnel back through that choke point. Still, without Death Banner having that ultimate available, and the same for Dardez, that's kind of a win for Noble just because they didn't lose Wubbin in the process.
Yeah, that they didn't drop anyone there is pretty good. So Noble's happy that no one ended up falling for it, even though the aggression did get started there in that jungle path. And I think Dardez was right. We kind of saw him, you kind of saw the call afterwards when Geb rolls back out, tries to head over to that area so Elevate can respond to some of the pressure that they're seeing out from Noble. But is the pressure kind of on Noble to make a move here, or is it on Elevate?
The pressure's still got to be on Elevate, at least from my perspective, because Noble can afford to just AFK chill. They've got Skilledon running the Blink ult Najah, and anytime you have a Najah with Blink, you never really know when you're going to get a Grest on, and that's kind of the advantage that Noble is running into Elevate. So for Elevate, they don't really want to wait for Noble to pick their moment.
No, I think you're right that Noble are trying to focus on that farm in particular. Even look at Skilledon choosing to go with those Talaria boots, trying to get a little bit of extra gold, probably from that ring bounce.
I don't see Skilledon trying to go too tank-oriented on the Najah either, but I know a lot of junglers have really been digging the Talaria boots because of that increased movement speed whenever you are out of combat, so it helps a lot with traversing through the map.
And it makes sense. Skilledon has been everywhere on this map, it feels like, in particular trying to give Jermaine a hard time over in this duo lane and make sure that they keep those relics on cooldown for him. He's back to having them available now, though, so if anything comes up, Jermaine will at least have that get-out-of-jail-free card. Taking a look at them, though, no numbers once again, feeling like he likes that teleport. And some of those prolonged engagements, it's come up for him.
Well, it's not an upgraded teleport just yet, so it won't be able to arrive thanks to War Division itself, but could still be really important for Elevate because that Gold Fury has just respawned. No numbers could potentially TP to that T1 tower in the mid lane and approach the rest of his, and go with the rest of his team to approach the Gold Fury.
Still sitting at 3-3, but right now, Gold Fury being thought about here by Noble. Freeze coming out on the Wubbin, knocking up from Dardez, making Wubbin take some good damage, actually stunning him into not just the Shard of Ice, but the Sunbreaker as well. Death Banner gets credit for that kill. He jumps in knowing he's got a Geb shield to sail him. Skilledon takes way more damage than he wanted to. Mad at Archery hits Moswall and Wowie, forcing everyone else back. Good wall, though! Isolates Skilledon from the rest of his team, and he'll have to run as Walrus comes in the back.
Walrus is trying to help out Noble here. He's already popping his Thorns preemptively before jumping into the middle of that fight, but that ultimate from the Shing 10 is only going to catch one member, and they're way too tanky to handle.
Skilledon was at least able to find Death Banner there in the back, but he pays for it immediately when he crashes back down. Right now it's 2-for-1 still in favor of Elevate. They're actually looking for a little bit more here on Wowie, who ain't afraid to box.
This could be a potential turnaround, though, for Noble. Walrus is still relatively healthy. Same could be said for Wowie. Dardez and Jermaine are both super low, and Cherio just doesn't really have the mana right now to compete.
Walrus trying to lock down Cherio, so Wowie can put the damage and getting out that honey to try and make it easier to catch up to him. Gonna pick back up his Stinger and just go ahead and back off for now, though.
One of the only downsides of going against such a tank-heavy composition, and it's now numbers with the rotation, catches out Walrus's dash and puts him in that cripple field immediately.
Moswall rotating in thanks to the portals. No number takes the unstable Vortex, gets a little more than he was looking for. Lockdown from Wubbin, follow-up damage from Noble, not quite enough. Dharmic Pillars, though, helps him finish it out. Wowie takes no numbers.
And he was able to pick up the Stinger again. That's probably the most important part. This is the second time now that Wowie gets to re-pick up that Stinger. First he got it after ulting Cherio, and now he's going to get it one more time after killing no numbers.
Yeah, he could potentially use his ult 3 times if this ends up being a prolonged engagement. Seems pretty good to me. Skilledon getting the sash on the Death Banner on the right to keep him away. Sunbreaker has come out from Jermaine. Actually, he's able to take Walrus too. Here's Skilledon going up on a Jermaine one more time. Jermaine can barely even think without having to worry about Skilledon. Moswall finishes it out, and Noble confirmed the Gold Fury.
And now Noble just want to get out of town.
Is gone.
There's no chance for Skilledon to survive. That ricochet off of the Amir wall, whether it was intentional or not, it just completely fragged Skilledon.
Yeah, that was nasty. See you later, buddy. He got wiped up off the map. So in the end there, Noble were able to take the Gold Fury, but Elevate get a few kills. Now they're the ones moving down here towards this Tier 1 tower in mid, looking to try and get a little bit back.
Relatively worthwhile, though, for Noble, because they ended up turning an engagement that was initially very much against them into way more of their favor. However, Elevate, when the Gold Fury goes down, next thing immediately being looked after is going to be that Portal Demon, and Wubbin wasn't able to secure his own speed buff for his jungler.
Everyone's coming in. Wubbin gets frozen. Wubbin gets locked down. Portal is enough to slow down Cheerio from falling up, but Death Panner actually jumps in aggressively. The wall isolates him, and Death Panner finishes cleaning that one up. Now trying to lock down Moswell with the cripple field is no numbers. Aegis buys him enough time, and he makes it back through the portal.
Moswell probably just sweating a little bit right there from no numbers lockdown potential, but it did get Elevate to reset the Portal Demon at the very least, and now Noble kind of just going to lick their wounds from that last engagement.
And there was a while in this game where things were pretty quiet, and then all of a sudden it sort of turned up over there at the Gold Fury when the issue was forced on that objective. Coming back over, trying to find a little bit more was Elevate and get that return Portal Demon, but Noble ended up defending it. It cost some Wubbin, but at least the objective still stands.
Well, that's my concern right now, though, if I'm Noble, is Wubbin really can't afford to keep getting caught out in the way that he has. He's been looking for the aggressive postures against Elevate and dashing in for that initial little bit of a knock up and hold on the enemy team, but he can't afford to do that against members with such great slow and just entrapment, really.
The good news is Moswell's still playing really well as no numbers and Death Panner continue to look for aggression on the Skilladon, who, thanks to good play from Wubbin, is able to get on out of there. But they, even though some of their other members are getting picked off like Skilly and Wubbin, Moswell continues to look good this game. The wall from Cheerio, once again jumping in aggressively, is Death Panner, man. He does not care about Noble. He's looking for kills.
Jermaine just watching that Giannis ultimate fly right in front of his very own eyes. And with that being down, Elevate now feeling a little bit more confident in trying to aggress onto this Portal Demon. That's basically all the steal potential from a Noble.
Yeah, it was the best way for them to contest this objective. Instead, Elevate get it basically for free. He is able to whirlwind and rage and steal there through that fight as Walrus, but it didn't deter Elevate. Wall just a little off the mark from Cheerio, so they'll back up for now, but they did get the objective.
But now that Elevate have that Portal Demon, it just allows them to get that freebie back and come back in. And what I'd imagine for Elevate to do, since they have that automatic reset to the middle of the map, they can aggress this T1 tower and solo for free.
And it does look like they want to keep posturing aggressively over here. Does Elevate. In fact, they are going to come over and push down this Tier 1 tower, or at least give it a chance, bring that minion wave up. But Noble don't want to give this up. It's only about 500 gold for your team, and they still want to try and defend it. May want that map pressure more than anything. Going in on the Walrus is the call. Sunbreaker comes down from Death Panner, but everyone's able to get out of it for now. Skilladon went up into the air, but it really wasn't enough. Actually coming back through the portal into danger. Moswell ends up falling. I don't know if that was what the plan was. Death Panner gets the ricochet, hits two members, and they continue to push. Cataclysm blink in from Dardes. See you later, Walrus.
That beautiful interruption by Dardes just catching everybody off guard. Jermaine, he's looking for the triple. He's actually got the quadra, but can he find the penta?
Either way, they do get the quadra kill. Deicide coming out for Elevate. They take that Tier 1 tower, and they're going to be looking to take a little bit more. What a big team fight over here in this solo lane side. What happened there, Taco, for it to go so out of control for Noble?
His team just stole a pentakill from him. That's what just happened. If only he'd found the first one, but it's just so devastating for Noble, though, after that engagement. What went wrong is just trying to contest a T1 tower against a double ADC composition. You've got Death Panther and Jermaine, who both already have Titan's Bane Odysseus Bow. Their damage spread is so wide at the moment that Noble really can't afford to contest in that manner. They have to rely on Skilladon taking a member up into the air, which he did. But the ultimate follow-up by Moswell, and it just wasn't enough with the through space and time to secure the kill onto Jermaine, because he was immediately Geb shielded upon landing, and even Aegis for good measure.
It really feels like they gave up a Fire Giant trying to defend 500 gold just now here to me, Taco. I don't know if it was worth that big engagement just for some of the aggression from Elevate. In the end, though, they do win that fight handily. They now sit on top of a 6,000 gold lead, more than doubled up in the kills, too, and Elevate are in control.
Excuse me, I believe it was actually a meditation and the shell at the same time that came out. I thought that was Jermaine just blowing his Aegis because he looked like he took no damage in the end, but turns out it was just his team with some excellent peel.
Yeah, they were able to keep him alive through that engagement. Moswell, we could not say the same for you or the rest of your team, buddy. You're going to need to back up and look for a defense as Elevate push down that tier 1 in the dual lane side. Cherio's facing down 3 members through space and time, is on cooldown. Skilodon is also on cooldown. 43 more seconds till we'll get to see him again. And tier 2 now in duo is the one under stress. As wrapping around the back is No Numbers. Wowie, you can't be here, buddy.
The walls are just going to take Wowie out entirely. There is absolutely no chance for him. And honestly, this gank wraparound that Dardes and No Numbers have been doing almost every time in the past couple engagements, just crushing Noble. The shockwave from the Cataclysm, there's just absolutely no way to escape.
See you later, Walrus. No way for you to escape either. No Numbers continuing to put on the pressure onto Wubbin. He's not going to be able to defend this Phoenix that's falling in dual lane already 24 minutes in. It was close for a while, but Elevate blew this game open after getting a full D aside over on the dual lane side of the map. Now mid-Phoenix is likely to fall as Dardes continues to zone out 3 members.
And Jermaine doesn't want to waste any more time. He just wants to secure these Phoenixes and then probably back to base to spend all that gold. If Elevate are able to find a couple of picks, then I'd imagine they'd look for the game end, but at the moment, they're looking to just take it easy.
Jermaine ends up taking down Wubbin. Sunbreaker was dropped down to zone away, but it actually provided a lot of good damage. Elevate actually are pushing in. Is it possible they could go for the end here, Taco? It looks like they are.
They've got 3 waves that are going to be pushing in here pretty soon, and anytime you have that amount of creeps, it's way too much for any one team to handle usually.
Blinking in is Dardes one more time, getting the Cataclysm on the several members. It's Moswell, that's the target. It's Moswell who's gone. Going in further for the team is No Numbers with the cripple field with the shards of ice. It's too much damage. Elevate are looking so good this weekend up against Noble Sports. Noble Esports, they're going to take one more win, and I think they go to 3-0 off that, right?
Dardes is in the